Welcome to the B Shifter podcast. John Vance and Josh Bloom here with you today. We're in the middle part of June with this one, so we're going to bring you some information on what's going on with Blue Card, talk about some current events, and we also have some audio for you today that we're going to play from a fire with a couple of victims. So we'll get to that here in a little bit, but first let's check in with Josh. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing great. Enjoying the summer. Just getting the year rounded out, getting some classes booked up. We got some availability through the rest of the year, but if you're wanting to do something yet in 2026, reach out to me sooner than later so we could get it, on the books, because we're working on 2027 dates and have tons of requests already for classes. So that's all good. And then we're headed to, in about a month, I guess, we're headed to Chiefs and Kansas City, so we'll be there for the show all those days. We're going to be in I think they call it the technology area, I believe is
Tech
what they
zone.
call it. Tech zone.
Yeah.
So looking forward to that. Otherwise, all good.
Well, and we invite folks to come by. If you're in Kansas City, come by and see us and learn about Blue Card. If you're not a regular user, I know most people that listen to the podcast believe in Blue Card in one way or the other. So, but if you have somebody who's one of those difficult folks who, really don't believe I'm putting water on the fire, which every day I look at social media, it tends to be a more and more. I saw some stuff from my hometown today that I just couldn't believe, which I won't go into because I won't give it any credence here. But there's a lot of theoretical practices going on out there right now, but we're steadfast that we believe water is a good thing on fire. So any of that stuff, any of the Blue Card myths, that's the other thing, is bad information. Every class that we do, there's somebody coming up with more and more myths. So I thought it was this, or I thought it was that, or I thought you were going to dictate my tactics. And that we start off every Train the Trainer class saying, really, Blue Card is not a tactics class. It gives you a platform to talk about your local tactics so you can sit down with your folks after you do a simulation. But this is a command training program where we teach you decision-making and how to organize an incident, particularly a type 4 and 5 incident. So that's really what it's all about. But people like to twist things into their own narrative, and we see that a lot. And that's just the world today. It's kind of interesting because Nick's article this week in the B Shifter Buck Slip, you can go to bshifter.com and read that now if you'd like, is just talking about the cost of training and how, people really complain about paying anything for fire training. Like fire training should just be free for everyone. Whereas, and I think about it, it's like, well, is there anybody out there listening right now, other than if you're at a small volunteer fire department where you don't get any compensation, is just going to go in and train for free? You're not going to get paid while they train. Would you do that? Training costs money. It costs money to send people, materials, development, all of that. But we get a lot of pushback from folks who are like, why should I invest in incident commanders? Why should I spend money on this? Because it's something my department's done now for 100 years. And we've been doing it okay. And Nick makes a great point talking about EMS training and how much money is actually put into EMS training versus fire training.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. There's no question about that. And it's 100-fold plus what's committed to EMS training, right? And compared to really most all the other training that we do. I mean, really, we could even, but next to EMS training, it seems like TRT training is the next thing that's like people spend a ton of money on. And then just recently I saw a local flyer here for a fire officer 1 class, $1,050. And it's like, I'm sure it's probably good training and there's some takeaways, but it's not, you're not leaving there with a system. You're leaving there with some, additional institutional knowledge, but not really a system that you can probably do much of anything with. But it's just another example of where are we going to commit our training dollars to as an organization.
And we're seeing more often that not putting resources into either command training or any kind of basic fire training is leaving fire departments open to so much liability because some of these lawsuit judgments can be directly tied back to the NIOSH top 5 and correlated to command and the lack of command training. And, we were just up in Southwest Michigan, and they're trying to regionalize an area. They're doing a great job in that Southwest Michigan Lakeshore area, Benton Harbor leading the charge there. But there are smaller departments saying, you know what, we only go to a couple fires a year. Why do we really need to train on this? That's probably even more reason to train on it because the public isn't expecting to give you a free pass just because you show up to a fire a couple of times a year. They expect you to have the same professionalism and the same skill set as the neighbor down the street that might be going to a fire a week. But people just have these issues, I guess, with training. And we're seeing it here in the state. We're having some local conversations right now because of the training commitments that paid on call departments have to have. And they're citing that as one of the reasons paid on call departments are failing. What I hope we don't get to is minimizing training and getting to a point where we're like some states that have a higher line of duty death because it's all up to the authority having jurisdiction to say whether you're a firefighter or not. And there's a reason why we have standards, including a command standard. And the command standard is blue card. You can get certified in it. You can get continuing education in it. And you get verified that you still have those skills. And it's not one and done. You can't, people go to TEACS. And again, it's not blowing any of those kind of programs up. You go to TEACS, that's a wonderful program. You can't go there every year. But what we've tried to do with Blue Card or other great systems that are that you can deliver locally is it's a sustainable ongoing program. But people get it going and then they let it go, or then they get a new fire chief. We've dealt with new fire chiefs before that they want their command system. They see some kind of opportunity in that, and then they drop Blue Card. Then the next new chief comes in and he brings Blue Card back, which is really a lot of work too. So yeah, that's why we always say if you're going to start a program, make sure you're going to sustain the program. But you should check out Nick's article at bshifter.com. It's a good one talking about all that. Hey, by the way, speaking of Nick, I've got my see here, if you're watching on YouTube, my Ladder 11 shirt. So we've got the Ladder 11 shirt now available at the B-Shifter store. If you don't know the story of Ladder 11, we're going to post it soon. We're working on an updated version of the Ladder 11 story, but it's where Nick and his brother was assigned there too in Phoenix, and it's not in the best of neighborhoods. Backs up right to Sheriff Joe's former tent city where he used to keep the prisoners, and a pauper's graveyard and all the trappings of an interurban area. And the guys had a lot of fun there. And the Raging Queen is what they named their ladder truck. So this t-shirt's an ode to that and those days. So you can grab that at the B-Shifter store if you're looking to have a little fun with some of your fire apparel. I posted it and some people started making comments again on the ladder truck. Blue Card's talking about ladder work, like that should never come out of our mouths. And I get it. It's funny. It's funny stuff. So if you follow the story, you'd love the Ladder 11 shirt.
I think Chris spent some time there too, didn't he?
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah, he roved in. I think he actually filled in for John, Nick's brother, as a captain for a while when he was off injured. So an extended period of time. So yeah. Chris is used to it. One of Nick's stories, and it's in the B-Shifter book, just talks about, the resource people came in and they removed the dishwasher one day because the dishwasher was broken. And when they removed the dishwasher, there was a nest of coral snakes living underneath it in the kitchen in the firehouse. So if you think you have a mouse or rat problem, it would really suck to have a snake problem. I would not be happy with that.
No.
Yeah. Hey, I see we are going to be going to the Port Authority in New Jersey. That's a real big deal with the ARFF program, speaking of Chris.
Yeah, so the ARFF group, Chris, John Muir, Glazer, and JT have been doing a really nice job with that ARFF program. It's been, launched 18 months ago or 2 years ago, and I think we're up to like 45, close to 45 airports, I think. Just a few weeks ago, they were at that Joint Base San Antonio and put a bunch of their folks through the ARFF program, and then we've done a couple of other trainers put folks through the trainer, and then this New York, New Jersey Port Authority, and I think they provide the service, ARFF service, to four airports there in New York, and New Jersey. So between the four of them, I think it's probably the busiest airspace. I don't know, maybe outside of Atlanta or something. I don't know, but it's a very busy airspace. So they're headed there in August for a 3-day ARFF Train the Trainer program with that group. We're excited, looking forward to that. I'm sure they're going to have a lot of input from, their recent incident that they had, and, what our group, shares, and then what our group picks up and learns from those folks. So that's really good. And then they're just a couple weeks after that, they're in Phoenix for an ARFF trainer, and there's some seats available in that, and the New York, New Jersey Port Authority class. Both of them are posted on the B-Shifter website. There's some seats. They agreed and opened that up to some outside folks if anybody wanted to go to that class. It's actually going to be at Newark, I think, just for access purposes, and their facility accommodate it better there, I guess. But either way, the 2 ARFF trainers in August, there's some seats available. I think we got Miami-Dade guys in the August class in Phoenix, and then I think the other 5 people that are in there from 5 different airports all over the country. I think one guy may be from Canada. And then our partners in Canada have several classes posted as well that you can find on the B-Shifter website. If you're listening to this and you're in Canada, interesting maybe to attend it based off of the ARFF survey that's going around of limitations and capabilities in Canada, that whole program. Them taking a look at themselves, where they do good and where can they improve.
So there are seats available for the general public, or not the general public, but our folks in New York, New Jersey at the Port Authority. Okay,
yep.
Good. That's August 4th, 5th, and 6th at the Port Authority. Wow, that's cool. That's really neat. Speaking of that area, I got back from the New England area. We were up in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, doing a Train the Trainer. Just a wonderful area. I mean, you want to talk about history and buildings that town was established in 1623. So it's one of those towns that had several major fires during its especially early years, but even recently, old heavy timber construction, or the combination construction that we read so much in the construction books when we were coming into the fire service. And I'm looking around construction. It's like, this is actually what they were talking about, that heavy timber and masonry combination with like field stones and cobblestones and, old footers with mortar. And I love looking at that kind of construction. There was a house that was built in 1660 that I got to peek my head inside, and had those old heavy timber, like handcrafted beams that you could just tell they shaved down by hand and got them up into place. And so, that certainly presents some issues to the folks there. But in addition to being a beautiful community and full of history, just great folks there. I always expect every time that I go to New England, it's going to be like dealing with a bunch of Gary Flashers, who we love Gary, but I just think I'm going to get my chops busted the entire time because of the way I talk. But they were cool. They were really nice to hang out with. Good firefighters. They care about their community, and we had a really, really good time there in New England and doing that Train the Trainer with those folks. So just want to thank them.
And John, let's talk about that region a little bit. Like, you were there for a week, and we've done some other work with that group. I think it's called the Seacoast Chiefs, right? And I think it goes up into Maine all the way down into Massachusetts. And I don't remember how many departments that they said are part of that, but it's kind of like a MABUS, maybe response district is what I would kind of compare it to in the Midwest. But I think they're doing a lot of great work. So can you just talk about that and like their collaboration and how they're working together? And it's not just one fire department, and they all work together. So they all run together. So they're trying to work together. And
well, one of the things that was really striking, and it's a reminder to us when we do these Train the Trainers, and you and I have seen it happen over the last almost 20 years, is when the fire chiefs come in and say, this is what we're doing. And that's what happened day one. Is we were fortunate enough to have our lead instructor, Gary Fleischer from Worcester, came over and talked for a little bit. And then we had the fire chief of Portsmouth and
Scott Kerrigan, Chief
Scott
Kerrigan.
Kerrigan, Chief Kerrigan came in. The assistant chief of training was there. I saw you had the chief standing up. Yeah, Chief Kerrigan from Salisbury, and they got up and said, "This is what we're doing." This, what the chiefs have agreed. We're all going to this. There are a ton of small departments there. I didn't realize in New Hampshire, I think one of the bigger fire departments is like a 10-station fire department. So that they don't have like big metro fire departments. They have a lot of small communities with 2, 3, 1 station, and they all have to work with each other in order to be effective at fighting fire. So what puts them on a better footing than having the same language and same decision-making model and same command system when they're working together? So they got up and the chiefs really lent their support to that. And that's part of that Seacoast Chief Officers Association. And that group is so big that they got their grant to do the blue card training. They own CTCs in a box. They have a ton of assets that they have, including like hazmat rigs and technical rescue rigs, and I believe some command vehicles and stuff like that. So they have a really great collaboration with each other and some great leadership there too. And that's really what it takes, is the chiefs getting together, putting aside any kind of nitpicky differences. And they say there's some holdouts. There is always going to be a holdout or two. But for the most part, they're all working together because they all understand they're going to be on each other's incident. And it really goes from these old, densely packed, small cities like a Portsmouth, where you got no fire separation at all, to rural areas where they're tankering water and might be more of like a farm rural setting. So they're working with everybody. And that Chiefs group is really bringing them together and doing a great job at collaborating and getting the departments on the same page. But I just can't say enough about their leadership and having the chief. If you want a successful blue card program or any kind of program, whatever it is that you're going to do, if you're going to have a spotter program, if you're going to say, hey, we're going to have a spotter back our apparatus from now on, the chief needs to be the one to stand up and say, this is what we're doing. The buck stops with me. And if you don't do it, we're going to have a talk. And that's the same thing with blue card. So it was really good to have their leadership there. And I think that's a great model for how regions should operate, especially, no one operates in a silo anymore. You can't be a standalone fire department. And we saw one of our other partners this week, they got rid of their ladder truck because people on either side of them had ladder trucks. A fire station a mile away and a fire station a mile and a half away have a ladder truck. Why do we need a ladder truck in every jurisdiction? Well, going back to that was because everyone used to operate by themselves. We didn't really call mutual aid or auto aid. We realized that best practice is really to do that. So we're delivering enough people on the scene in a quick, timely fashion. So they're saying, you guys keep your ladder truck. We're going to do something. They're going to bring something else to the table, and it's that give and take and real true mutual aid is that handshake saying, we're going to provide this, you provide that, and everyone's going to benefit from it because they're going to get better service. And we see that going on there with the Seacoast Chiefs. So really nice job with them.
John, I wanted to talk a little bit about on this same topic. Really, I just want to talk a little bit about the effort and work that goes into the collaboration for that, and then in contrast to what does it look like for an organization like Cobb County? What's it look like for an organization like Las Vegas Fire Department, or any of those departments that are in we'll just say the mid-range of fire stations, standalone, or even the largest of fire departments in the country, adopting and using a single system. And I bring that up because we hear, early on we would hear all blue cards for big fire departments only. And, now it's funny we're hearing, and I just laugh out loud when I see it because it's people who work in suburbia and they're like, oh, blue card's just twisting the arm and making suburban chiefs that don't know what they're doing do the system because they don't know anything else. And that's what they're going to do. And it's like, well, we have everything from 1 station fire departments, 100 station fire department. So it really does fit any organizations responding to emergency incidents, right? Any organization that responds to all hazards incidents, the command system is the command system, and that's the key part of it. I think is the system component piece. So, it looks different if you're in suburbia. It looks different here in my world in Hamilton County. You to get 8 chiefs, you're going to get or 4 chiefs with support officers, you're going to get 8 chiefs to fill that out. Whereas, if I'm in Cobb County, I'm getting 4 chiefs with drivers. Or I'll just go all the way across the country, and the Rancho Santa Fe group, that North Zone, I think is what they call it. We did a trainer just a few months ago there and they added 16 instructors. We're going back in October. They're adding 16 more, and every time we're with those guys, they're like, it just keeps growing more and more, because anybody who touches the next fire department that touches that group becomes almost like part of the response system, because everybody has to work together to provide the service. And, we talk about that when we talk about division ops a bit, because people are like, oh, we don't have the resources for that. And it's like, well, if you draw a box as big as the city of Phoenix around your jurisdiction, I guarantee you that you can get enough response chiefs. I guarantee you probably get more response chiefs than even the Phoenix Fire Department has, staffed daily. So I just bring that up because the whole collaboration thing's important, and then what the system does to bring those people together. And John, you worked in a couple different places now where Blue Card has helped to make that response, come together. And yeah, there are 10 different names on the fire department trucks, but when the bell rings, everybody operates in one system.
Yeah. And even if it's not that way today, that could be the goal. And that's where you get to, because we start talking about chiefs and division roles, especially in having command teams and command support. And I'll hear either we only get 1 chief or we get no chiefs. I was in an area in mid-Michigan where just the culture within the county is there's 1 or 2 chiefs of department that'll actually go to calls. They don't have battalion chiefs, but at one department, and they typically don't get chiefs. So the captains have to be the IC. And my advice is the goal should be you're going to get chiefs there. Eventually you can do that once you drop your borders and you start working together. And once you see the power of it, once you see the efficiency of it, once you see how having that team makes the role of command that much better, having the team really accomplishes a lot more. So that could be a goal, and it might take a while to get there. The Minnetonka Fire Department used to be very siloed. It was a 5-station fire department, no mutual aid, and they'd get 1 chief. Now it's not unusual to have 7 chiefs on a run, because that's just the way that we got to, and working with all of our partners to provide the best service possible. So that can be a goal. Just because it's this way today doesn't mean it needs to be that way tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And if you have that as a goal and you keep pushing, you're going to be able to get there eventually through that collaboration. Mm-hmm. Oh, this week we put out the big box bulletin on Monday. If people did not see that when we put it out to the buck slip list. There will be a link in the show notes so you can access that. But we have some big stuff going on with big box right now. Let's talk about that fire in Tracy last week, Tracy, California. As a matter of fact, when I sent the bulletin out yesterday, which was Monday of this week, that fire was still smoldering, and there was still a health alert for the community because of the smoke. The smoke was so nasty. It was a medical supply facility, and all those pharmaceuticals and whatever else happened to be in the facility. A lot of plastics and stuff polluting the air, causing people to get nauseous and sick. And the fire just burned forever. Mm-hmm. There's video of it that's just amazing. It's yet another, sprinkler big box that we see that they had a fire like this, and luckily they recognized that they weren't going to get anywhere by being inside. And either they call it defensive pretty early or right away. I mean, I think they discovered that they weren't going to be able to get ahead of this, and they certainly didn't apply residential tactics in there after a while. So that's just one of the examples. I don't know if you have anything on Tracy that you saw that, but that's one of the reasons we put that bulletin out.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that the takeaway at this point, until everybody has more information, because we do not jump to conclusions, and at Blue Card or in our group, like let's hear the findings and the data or and the takeaways from the folks that are investigating it. Kind of like the coming up, the 2 free trainings that NFSA are doing on the mega warehouse fire there in Indianapolis. Let them tell that story and like what worked and what didn't work. My view is lots of things start running through my head when I see things like that. And it's like, well, how did it get that way, and where did the fire start, and did we supply the fire department connection? Was the system even turned on? We heard the fire chief say water supply issues, and then smoke for miles, and then I think I heard like 2.5 miles away embers catching other pieces of other things on fire. I think it was like well into a one alarm fire at just a landscaping mulch place, because everything there was on fire. I think they had an exposure. The FedEx building ended up having a fire in it. So my point on the Tracy fire right now is if you have these buildings, you need to be thinking about what does it look like, and what do we do when the fire looks like that? Because if it gets ahead of the system, or the system is not working, we are not built. The American Fire Service is not built to fight those fires. And we can start it all the way back to the water supply piece. Generally that water supply system is going to be designed and required to supply enough water for X number of sprinkler heads going off inside of a building. And beyond that, if the sprinkler system doesn't get it, we're not going to get it either. And we're not going to get ahead of it. So having that understanding and those considerations of when one of these buildings gets going, and you got 1 million square feet of Class A material and all the plastics and everything else that's in there on fire, we're never going to have enough water to put it out right now. And we saw that with this fire. And I think it's not much different than many of the other big box fires that we've seen, where there was something with the system, where the fire overran the sprinkler system, or I don't want to even say overran the sprinkler system, where when the fire was larger than what the sprinkler system could handle, or the sprinkler system wasn't working. And I don't want to say overrun, because that's making like the system didn't work. And in this case, maybe the system didn't work because it was shut off or faulty or whatever it is. And I'm not jumping to conclusions on that. I'm just making a statement there. But like the defensive fire in California intentionally sets 20 different fires in a 1 million square foot building, the system is not designed for 20 different fires inside of that building. So, understanding the capabilities and limitations of the systems and best practice of what we do there, and then, backing up to making sure you have pre-plans, making sure that everybody's on the same page. Where is the fire department connection? Where can we get video of early video, maybe from inside the building, of where the fire started, so that we have the best access. And then, as soon as possible, talking to the responsible party people, the people responsible for the system, and then the people responsible for the occupant in the building that has the most knowledge of that facility. And we've done quite a few podcasts on big box buildings, and the Monroe Fire Department here in Ohio, we've talked to them, I think 2 different times now, about big box fires. And they've had great success with their pre-planning and hooking to the fire department connection, and then setting up attack teams and getting an initial roof report, doing all those things we talk about doing everything right when everything goes right. And then on the flip of it, we have to do everything right still when something that we have no control over went wrong. So just having that understanding, and then the clear offensive versus defensive component. So we might say it's defensive, but that means we need to have a standoff distance, and we should not have people in the warm zone, collapse zone, anywhere around a building when we go defensive, because that means we're writing it off. It's going to be a loss. So if you're looking to gain more information about big box fires, NFSA's doing that mega warehouse seminar. It's free in Brighton, Michigan, July 17th. And then they're doing the exact same seminar here in Cincinnati, Springdale, Ohio, July 22nd. And that's from the Plainfield, Indiana incident. And there's going to be people there on site that were at the incident talking about, their lessons learned, as well as the people from the NFSA talking about, best practice and what that looks like when you go to these buildings. And then beyond that, we do have 3 big box workshops scheduled between now and the end of the year. So Benton Harbor, Michigan, October 1st and 2nd, I think there'll be like 10 seats open in that. And then we're at the AVB CTC in Phoenix, October 19th and 20th. Be an excellent time to, go to Phoenix in October. And then Ann Arbor, Michigan, December 3rd and 4th. And we're working on figuring out dates to do classes, big box classes for next year. We had, I think, 20 requests that didn't, this year that didn't get a class because we work around, obviously have to work around Shane's schedule and his availability. And he can only do what he does because he's out there doing everything he does to advocate for, sprinkler systems and having a safer fire environment, because that's what we're here for. Right. And I love when people, oh, sprinkler systems, I hate sprinkler systems, whatever. And it's like, well, you got a shirt on that says you're here for them. Well, if you're here for them, then you should be behind sprinkler systems, because that is the one thing that's going to make the biggest difference and have put the fire out the fastest. So yeah, so that's what we have listed out for this year. And then you can always go to the B Shifter website to see the free big box SOG, and that's a collaboration document with the NFSA, and it lines up with NFPA 1700 and 13 NFPA 13E as it stands right now for what should the fire department do when they go to a building that has a sprinkler system in it.
And I will include all that in the show notes too, along with the bulletin that has those resources, along with the podcast we did with Shane, just talking about big box operations and the links to those free classes too. So cool stuff. I mean, I'm glad we're talking about it. It seems like it's happening a lot more. I mean, you're just seeing a lot more of these larger incidents, and through no fault of our own, other than, sometimes we don't know how those systems operate. And that's why we talk on our big box day. Get access to one of those trailers. There's 9 of them regionally that the National Fire Sprinkler Association has. They'll bring it to your department for free, and they'll train your people how fire sprinklers work, how valves work, the fire behavior that occurs once the sprinkler system goes off, what it takes to activate the head. It's a great educational tool. And it's free. So we started off talking about free training. There's literally free training available for you right there that you can bring out to your department and get a great education, especially for those low frequency, high risk events, because these are going to be big dollar loss fires. We just have to write that off, but no reason to injure or kill, especially when there's zero life safety issues other than us in the building typically.
And we're going to continue to see more and more fires, I believe, in these big box buildings, just because they're building more and more of them. I mean, I can't drive up 75, 71, around 275, anywhere around here without seeing a big box going up, somewhere. And I'm talking like, 180,000 square foot to, 2 million square feet buildings, because we really treat all of those similar, though there is a big difference between 180,000 square feet and 2 million square feet. But, our response and capability is really the same at both of them.
Well, we were in the Pacific Northwest not long ago. They were talking about a 6 million square foot data center that was proposed in their area. I mean, I can't even fathom that. Like what out there is 6 million square feet? Is that like that? That's bigger than a football stadium, right? I mean, that's
way bigger.
That's several football stadiums. I can't fathom it.
Well, Grant Light did that math, right? It's I remember what fire was that? Was it the Plainfield incident maybe that he did the math out on? And it was, I don't remember how many. It's in our big box presentation. I don't remember how many football fields it equated out to. And we did
like
that.
22. It was like 22 football fields. Yeah.
It was, and we did that because of the Walmart, the thing with the houses that we do, like 66 2,000, 2,500 square foot homes fit inside of a typical Walmart. And this was 22 football fields fit inside of that building. And it's like, well, are you going to go crawl around looking for something on a football field? Like, would you ever? So it's like, what about 22 times bigger than that with, 6 foot wide or 8 foot wide aisles and everything stacked 40 feet tall. So it's a different animal.
Want to get into the audio that we have this week?
Yeah.
All right. What do we have? What are we going to listen to today, Josh?
Yeah, so this is we've used some audio from this organization before. It's the City of Harrison Fire Department here in Ohio. So they're right on the Indiana border at 74. So they're like, I don't know, 80 miles ish from Indianapolis, right on the Ohio-Indiana border in the southwest corner. Interesting, they cover a bunch actually and run into Indiana a bunch, like got some contract area that they cover going that way. So 2-station fire department, they're building a 3rd station. So on a working fire, they're getting, 5 or 6 other mutual aid fire departments. And I said fire departments, not just companies. So that's that piece of working together and collaborating and everybody working within the same system. And you don't get there and just get to do whatever you want to do. Everybody's working within a system to solve the actual problem. And on this one, the initial IC here is a Blue Card instructor, has been a big proponent of the program since the start of it. They make a big push. They pretty much train everybody at their fire department, because at any moment anybody could be riding in the front seat of the truck, which we're seeing that more and more, where fireman was riding up but not qualified for the position. Because if you're riding up and the lieutenant has a requirement to ride that position, then why am I riding up and filling that position if I don't have those qualifications? So, and in this case, that wasn't. I mean, the company, he's a company officer. He was the initial IC. But my point is, they're training everybody because they are in that situation or that position where somebody could be riding the truck that is not a company officer. They don't backfill with officers like some organizations that we see across the country are transitioning to, or that they do that. And with that said, I think it was about a month ago, we launched that firefighter first responder module. And that's actually going pretty well. And I've had some feedback already from some organizations that put their firefighters through it. And then they had success. They had 2 firemen that had gone through the program. They pull up in a medic unit at a fire, and they pretty much gave an excellent initial radio report for the information and the training that they'd had. So the training that they went through with the firefighter first responder module, and then just hearing it, within their organization, their institutional knowledge and experience kind of they've gained through hearing their boss at the firehouse or other people at the station give reports. So it all starts with that. It all starts with that initial radio report. And I want to say that company officers, they make or break the incident, and we know that. And we need to train them, and they need to have the expectation of what are they going to do, and what are we going to do with the next several companies to solve the problem. Not everybody just gets there and does what they want to do. There's actually a plan of solving the problem. And we all know that a lot of the incidents we go to, if you send 7 apparatus all fully staffed, well, we're not going to use necessarily all of them if the critical factors don't suggest or align that we need all of them to solve the problem. They all have a job to do, but they're not necessarily getting assigned right from the get-go. And in this audio we're going to listen to, it's excellent because it's an example of another example of a company officer doing a size up, giving out good information, and then giving assignments based off the critical factors to work through and solve the problem. And in this case, the IC2 that arrives is a mutual aid chief coming in to that fire and becomes the strategic IC. So that again is just another example of everybody being on the same page. And there's borders, but I want to say there is no borders, because whoever's first is first, and whoever's second is second, whoever's third is third. And that's how a resource is deployed, and everybody's there for the same reason, to make the incident better than it was when we got there.
This is fire on for possible address 139 Freeline Court, 139 Freeline Court. It's on fire on for possible patient, a male of 40s, possibly burned, is conscious and awake.
You're clear, thank you.
Hands on fire on 4 per PD, heavy flames and heavy smoke from the rear of 139, 139.
You're clear. If you would, go ahead and start due gas and electric as well, please.
I got
57's on the scene, alpha side. Got a small residential bi-level, got a working fire with heavy smoke and fire showing from the alpha and Charlie sides. We're taking a hydrant, we stretch a line for fire control, primary search. We'll be currently in the offensive strategy, conducting a 360, I have command on 4. Engine 56, find a second hydrant, laying a secondary.
Command from 56, we got the hydrant. We're going to let forward for it.
Engine, you're clear on second hydrant. Spot behind the Quint. Pull a second line to Charlie side.
Charge yellow line. Here comes water on the yellow line.
Engine 28, level 1.
28 spot of the way. Come on deck on Alpha.
Right clear on deck on Alpha.
Medic 56, is that you level 1?
That's affirmative. Medic 56.
All right, good and try to get close as you can. Bring your EMS equipment forward. We got one patient in the front yard with burns to the hands.
That's clear. Move forward for one patient.
Got it from command. You copy forward.
Affirm.
Just a follow-up report here. 360 is completed. Closed basement with lookout windows. Heavy fire in Charlie and Alpha still. One patient being evaluated by medic 56. We're going to still remain offensive.
For yourselves, heavy fire is one patient being evaluated by medic 56, and just so you know, Duke has been notified.
Got you clear, ma'am. Also, accountability will be on the Alpha side at Quint 57.
Your clear accountability, Alpha side, Quint 57.
Engine 68, level 1.
6-8 copy. Spot out of the way. Move on deck on Alpha. Bring your air transfer equipment forward, please.
Engine 105, level 1.
District 53, I'm on the scene. Alpha side. I Quint 57. And engine 56 operating on the Alpha side. Command, if that's correct, give me a CAN report, and I'll go ahead and take command.
Command, assignments are correct. We're currently in the offensive strategy, making exterior knock. You'll have 68s, 105s, both coming forward on deck on Alpha.
District 53 will be command on the Alpha side.
District 68, level 1.
Iris, command 2081 is going to be level 1.
District 68, move forward and take Alpha.
District 8, clear. Moving forward, taking Alpha.
Medic 53, I'm saying. 813, level 1.
District 25, level 1.
District 25, move forward, take Charlie. Engine 68, engine 103, engine 105. Park out of the way. Move your personnel forward to the command post at District 53. Medic 26, level 1.
What? 81, level 1. Level 1.
Engine 68, engine 105. I need the garage doors open on the Alpha side.
Engine 68, clear.
Engine 105, clear. Alpha, when you're in place, let me know and I'll give you a rundown.
Command, Alpha's in place. The only thing I'm lacking is some passports. Go ahead with the rundown.
That's clear. They'll be bringing the passports to you momentarily. You have Quint 57, engine 56, and engine 28 working on the Alpha side. We have no units working on the interior of the building at this time. And engine 68 should be forcing the garage doors momentarily. Charlie's in place. Charlie from command. I have no units operating on the Charlie side at this time. Give me a CAN report from the Charlie side.
Command from Alpha.
Alpha, go ahead.
Was notified Quint 57 is now working in Charlie.
Charlie from command. You have Quint 57 on the Charlie side.
That's clear. We have Quint 57 down here. The fire appears to be under control back here. We're dumping some more water. It looks like it started on the deck, not the back of the house.
Charlie, that's clear.
No needs.
Camas County from Tree Line Court Command. Fire's under control at this location. The investigation 56 and Hamilton County's investigation team dispatched to our location.
Command, you're clear. 623.
Medic 53 from command, move your personnel forward with your EMS supplies.
Command from Alpha.
Alpha, go ahead.
The main breaker's been flipped to the off position.
Command's clear. Main breaker shut off.
Command from Charlie.
Charlie, go ahead.
Are you sending crews through the front door now?
It appears Alpha is moving crews. They have the garage doors open now on the Alpha side.
That's clear.
China Command.
Come in, go ahead.
Your timer's elapsed.
That's clear. Keep the timer going at this time.
You're clear for 27.
Engine 28 to A side.
Go ahead, engine 28.
Second floor is all clear on the stairs.
Alpha copies. Second floor is all clear on primary search. Is that correct?
Affirmative.
Do you have any needs at this time?
One additional crew for overhaul. We have extensive overhaul.
Alpha's clear.
So as we listen to this, it was all compressed, and I think we listened to like 6 or 7 minutes of audio, and the total amount of audio actually would have been, I think, about 16 or 17 minutes, somewhere around there. But either way, we cut out all that void space just so people weren't sitting there and listening to nothing. We just tied it all together. So I'll just start right from the get-go of having a standardized response of command function 1 deployment that everybody in the county gets the same response at a minimum, and then you can add additional if you wanted to. So if you had an area where you needed tenders, it would just get added to the card. So that's a big piece of it. And then as you were listening, you can hear that the dispatch is engaged and was giving information. So dispatch is a working fire. There is a victim. The police update with a working fire and that there is indeed a victim that is burned. And then, command acknowledges that while still en route and went ahead and called for Duke. That's just the energy company here, just so that they got them going, right? So working fire, smoke and flames are visible. You're probably going to need the energy company. So they just kicked it off while still responding. Size up, I think, excellent. Painted a pretty good picture of what was going on, communicated the critical factors, came back with that follow-up report of what was going on in the basement, that there was no fire in the basement, what kind of basement it was, accountability location. Said they were knocking the fire down from the exterior, but they were remaining offensive. So that creates confusion for people sometimes because they put inside and outside as outside defensive, inside offensive, and really it's inside of the hazard zone, which would still be like the warm zone. But if our intention is we're going to go inside, then we are offensive. That was the mindset, right? So based off the critical factors, going through the risk management plan, they were going to knock the fire down and go inside. And it's interesting. We just talked about fires that start on the exterior and go inside the building just a few weeks ago on the podcast with Dan. And this is just another one of those examples. And we, especially this time of year, we see a huge uptick in these fires started on the deck or started on a grill on the deck or whatever, and then end up extending inside the building. So that the value of the 360 and seeing where the fire's burning is critically important, because we're not going to be able to put a fire out on the inside that started on the exterior, that the exterior is going to keep on burning. So in this case, fire spreading on the deck up that siding on the exterior into the second floor, maybe into the attic space. So we have to take care of that problem and be cognizant of that, as well as get companies inside to start opening up and to get the searches done inside the building. So IC1 on Quint 57, believe he assigned 4 companies and then still did the command transfer. So the command transfer, I think, was excellent. Mutual aid chief came in, gave new IC1 had their hands full. So gave, some information of, I'm ready for the transfer. This is where I believe companies are. Give me a CAN report. So that was all good information, verified position and function of the units, verified position and function of other units that he had assigned that weren't yet in place. So 28s and 56s that were moving forward. Well, I'm talking about Medic 50s. Well, that Medic 56 getting assigned, hey, get as close as you can, bring your medical equipment. You have a patient in the front yard with burned hands. So excellent information there. So that just goes back to how many medic units do you have coming? We're committed to this. We're committed to life safety. Well, we need to make sure that we have the resources to, if we do find a victim, to not only be able to remove them, treat them at the scene, but also transport them. Our job isn't done until they're delivered to the emergency room. So having that mindset, and that's just part of that command function 1 deployment. And, a lot of times we see or hear all the medic units that get dispatched, get paired up or tied to a fire company, or if they don't get assigned, they just pair themselves up, and that should not be happening, right? So if a medic unit's dispatched, they're dispatched as a medic unit. They're likely not dispatched as leave your medic unit, sit there and go join a fire company. And if that's the case, that's fine if that's what you all do, but it needs to be communicated so that somebody knows, okay, we do not have a medic unit or transport unit available. So good communications, good takeaways, everybody being on the same page there. I like that IC1 was forward thinking enough that he told Engine 68, I want you to go on deck, bring your air transfill equipment, right? That's just a little reminder piece of you're on deck, and we want to get those transfill bags and that RIT equipment at the entry points. And if we have multiple entry points, we're not going to have just one on deck crew. We're going to have multiple on deck crews at every attack position. So then those other chiefs, started arriving. So all the chiefs that arrived, all those districts that arrived from mutual aid departments, but clearly they're all on the same page because their communication sounds the same. They gave the same kind of information because they're all operating within the system and they're all certified. So an interesting thing in this county, and it took a long time to get there, is if you are a response chief in this county, there's minimum qualifications for you to act as a strategic IC or as a division boss, either one. So with that being said, it makes it a whole lot easier that you can assign people who have that title typically to those positions because they're qualified and trained to do the job. It would be like, if they're not trained and qualified, it's like calling a paramedic unit that you think has paramedics on it, but when they get there, they're non-emergent handicap van drivers. And it's like, that does me no good, right? I needed paramedics. And in this case, you need ICs and people to fill command roles that are trained and qualified to fill out those positions. So without hesitation, command officer District 53, assigned those other units. So he had the most companies on Alpha. So he assigned District 68 to Alpha. And then when District 68 was there, they said, I'm in place and ready for a rundown. And that's part of the procedure in this county and the way that operates. So they assign the boss, and then the boss goes to that geographic area, and then they give them a rundown of all the units that are assigned that are working for them. So one of two things: they can either go back to the apparatus, the first due engine where accountability, or the first due Quint. In this case, Quint 57, they said that's where accountability location was. That's where the passports are. They're right in front of the house. Or they could wait on the passports to get their support officer just to grab them, or somebody else could bring them to them. But either way, that's the way that it goes, so that they know, most importantly, who they have working in their geographic area, who they have and what they're doing. And then District 25 from Coleraine gets there and gets assigned to Charlie. And at that point, he didn't have any units. Command didn't have any units working back there, but just said, hey, can you give me a CAN report of what's going on back there? So it was to get eyes, on what was going on the Charlie side of the building. And in this case, Quint 57 ended up working on the Charlie side of the building to do, overhaul there. So they brought this fire under control, very quickly. We heard the report from, I think it was Engine 68, of the primary search on the second floor was all complete. But in their needs, they said, because he asked for a CAN report, and we know that people forget needs, but in the needs said, I need another company. We have extensive overhaul to do on the second floor. So that's everybody working together, getting on the same page. Everybody understands the system. They know what to say and what not to say. And importantly, know when to say certain things, right? Like, we don't break the order model unless we have priority traffic or a Mayday. So just another example of, the Harrison Fire Department doing great work, but kudos to the entire region for, in this case, 1, 2, 7 different fire departments coming together at a fire to operate as one. And if you didn't know any better, you would think it was one fire department.
All right, before we go, let's do a timeless tactical truth. Timeless Tactical Truth from Alan Brunacini in my very beat up Timeless Tactical Truth book. You can get one of these at the B Shifter store for only $10. And this one from AVB. Always do now what will save you 10 minutes from now. Always do now what will save you 10 minutes from now. We talk in our Blue Card Command classes about forecasting ahead, not only resources, but what's plan B, what's plan C, what's the worst thing that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
These guys were planning ahead. I think putting that Charlie division in place is planning ahead in case you have work back there, if that can report had turned out different. And they ended up having some work because they ended up assigning a company to the Charlie side.
Mm-hmm.
But we need to be forward thinking. I hear overly optimistic IC sometimes. We've got this licked. You know, they're just thinking it's a bread and butter. And I know one of the famous instructors said there really is no such thing as bread and butter because everything is different all the time. Don't get lulled into that sense of thinking that everything is a bread and butter fire. Any thoughts on that truth from you, Josh?
Yeah, for sure. You know, that forward thinking piece is a critical component, and it starts with IC1 getting there. You know, what's it look like? Evaluating the critical fire ground factors. Where is it at now? And more importantly, where is it going to be in 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever that is? And then the forward thinking piece of, all the ICs that I ever heard say, I got it, I can handle it, I'll run it myself, whatever. None of them have been in that position where they're in that, oh shit, I wish I had somebody right now that they could like look over and the support officers in the car tracking accountability for them, or somebody on the alpha side says mayday, 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 and yeah, you got it and you own all of it now. And you know, putting people in place, a lot of it is that forward thinking and prevention, right? So you know, if I put alpha there, it puts me in a better place if a mayday were to happen that I could deal with it. But more importantly, if I put an alpha there, maybe I can prevent something from happening, right? So I got another set of eyes, ears, and another brain there actually thinking and making decisions, because we all know when we duck our head and cross that threshold, we lose a whole piece of what's going on anywhere except for maybe 6 feet around us and what we can see with a thermal imaging camera. So yeah, that's that forward thinking, forecasting piece. And then even all the way back to the first thing we talked about on this particular incident, when the county said work and fire, and the officer in Quint 57 came back and said, send Duke gas and electric. It was just another one of those forward thinking things, right? Like, let's get them coming because we're going to need them. And not necessarily that in this case that it was like total catastrophic, but the sooner you get them coming, the sooner they're going to be there. Right. So I think like anything, if you think you need them, you better call them now because they're not going to be here right now. It's going to take a little time. And I always tell people the further you get into the incident and the further you are into your alarm cards, the earlier you better call if you think you're going to need them, because likely the further away the units are. So if you think you need a company in 10 minutes, well, you should have called them 5 minutes before you thought about you needed them, probably. So, yeah, critical.
And we reinforce that with simulations too, because we'll hold engine 4, engine 5, and ladder 4 unless they balance the alarm or upgrade the alarm. All right. Well, hey, this has been a good one. Thanks, Josh. It's good seeing you, and I'm sure we'll be talking to you in the next week or so. And thanks everyone for listening to the B Shifter podcast. We'll talk to you next week.